listeners. Happy Wednesday or whatever day of the week it is when you're watching or listening to this. Welcome to this week's episode of With Her Two Hands, your weekly podcast where we get to meet incredible women kicking butt in the trades. The women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go round. I am your host, Bogey, and I'm an auto mechanic by trade, but I am passionate about supporting women in all of the industrial trades. Tonight, we are going to be joined by another, not just master mechanic. Get this, y'all, she is a super tech. I didn't know that qualification existed, but apparently in Honda land, there's techs, there's master techs, and then there's super techs, and apparently there's not very many of them in the world, and she is one of them, which is so badass. I'm so excited to get to meet her. I think you guys are going to really enjoy getting to know her. But before we bring her on, big thank you to our sponsors and partners in this series, Drive Time. If you're not familiar with them, you definitely want to go check them out. Their link is down below. They are a company that sells used cars, right? That's the simple part of it. But the more involved part of it is that they're a company that really believes in creating opportunities for young people within the trades, raising them up, training them, helping them find their home within the automotive industry. They really believe in diversity, and I love that about them, and they put their money where their mouth is. So not only do they do all this great stuff within their organization, but they also support things like this podcast and also things like the current charity all-female build that is going on at my shop, Girl Gang Garage, right now, where a whole bunch of women are getting together along with Drive Time to rebuild a car and donate it to a really good charity here in Arizona that serves homeless pregnant women. So really good stuff, great organization. Go check them out, and a big thank you to them. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you wonderful human beings who come back here week after week to meet these incredible women. It is with your support that we are going to change the world, right? We're going to normalize seeing women in the trades because podcasts like this shouldn't be necessary, right? We should all just be human beings who happen to do cool things. It shouldn't matter whether we're men or women, and it is with your help that we're going to make that possible. So let's be a part of this revolution to normalize the trades. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, leave comments down below. Let the algorithm know that more people want to see this great content and want to meet these incredible women. Share these stories with your friends. Pass on these videos to young women who might need a little dose of inspiration. And with that, without further ado, I'm going to quit blabbing and I'm going to bring on the lovely Miss Brooklynne Morse, Super Tech. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so good. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Agreed.
So excited.
I know. I am so excited as well. The minute I saw, so background story, we have a mutual friend. So Brooklynne and I have never actually met in real life. We spoke briefly on the phone, but we have a mutual friend, Eric the Car Guy. If you're a YouTuber and you like to follow car folks on YouTube, you probably know Eric the Car Guy. Good human being. He posted about Brooklynne and was like, I just met this super tech. And I was like, hello, I need you to introduce us. How do you know this amazing woman? And you haven't introduced her to me. So that's how I know about Brooklynne. So I'm so excited to meet you. Super tech, goddamn
Yes.
girl. And
Yeah.
what's best is that you thought you were going to go into culinary arts at one point.
Yeah. So in high school, we had BOCES. And that's essentially a trade school you got to be in your school for half the day and then back in trade school for half a day. Culinary was fun. Who doesn't love food? So
fair point.
I did that, then went to college for it and just fell in love with Honda instead.
Okay. I feel like there's like some blanks to fill in there. How did you go from I studied culinary arts in high school, went to college for it, and then I like how smoothly you're like, but I fell in love with Honda instead. Okay,
well,
fill in the blanks there. I mean, most people don't. Let's be honest. How'd that happen?
All of my friends in high school loved cars. And as I went into college, a large majority of my friends still loved cars, even though the friends changed. And as I was going through culinary, I was like, I don't want to work on every single Sunday doing the same thing every day without having that creative control to some extent. I want to have fun. I want to do something different every day. And I just started thinking about cars. All my friends were like, the Honda program's a great program if you don't know much about cars. So I just started talking to them and got into the program, convinced my parents it was a good idea. And here I am.
Amazing. So were you like always how did you always wind up with car friends? Like I had no car friends growing up. How did you wind up in that situation? Was it just by chance, coincidence, or were you just drawn to the car world and didn't really know it quite yet?
My grandfather had a 39 Chevy Coupe in his garage for the longest time, which now I have inherited.
Ooh.
And that's going to be a little fun project at some point to start playing with, but I always was fascinated by taking things apart and putting them back together. My family is full of engineers, so I think part of it's just in my blood, but I just always found myself around car people. I always thought cars were cool. They always intrigued me, and that just, I think, led to the secret love I didn't know existed until now.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
it. I love how much of a theme there is throughout this show, this series of like, being exposed to it, not really like knowing that it was a passion until you get into it, and just the difference that it makes having a supportive family. And like you definitely
Yeah.
had like friends and family who were all about it and okay with you doing it, even though, am I correct to understand that you like did not know much about cars at all? You just decided to jump in.
Yeah. I knew how to put my spare on. I knew how to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, that's
That
good.
was the extent.
And you just thought, hey, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, it was just a feeling, just something deep in my heart. And I was like, I really want to do this. My parents saw the drive, and the full support was there from the very second I brought it up. So there was no
I
second guessing,
love it.
and it was amazing.
That's so insane to me. I absolutely love it. I mean, I guess it's not that insane because I've done similar things, but it just, it's always interesting to hear that moment when some spark gets lit, right? And then everything from there on out is totally different. And what that spark was or why it resonated so deeply, like, is always so fascinating to me. But why? Because we all come up with ideas, right? Like we come up with crazy ideas. We're like, it would be cool, but there's the things we think about, and then there's the things that we do, and like what makes that difference. Do you know what it was that spoke to you so deeply about this, that you were like, I'm dropping everything and I'm going to dive into a world that I know nothing about, and I have zero skills, but I'm just like, it's calling to me. Do you know what it was that was calling to you so deeply?
I wish I did. I have no idea. No idea. Uh, a lot of those friends that I had in high school, they would work on their own cars, and I would just sit there and watch and be like, "Wow, it's so amazing that there's so many components, and you can just look at it and be like, I know what this is, and I know what this does, and this has this effect on something else." And it's like, wow, that's really cool. And it went from me just kind of being like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is," to now it's like, "Oh, XYZ on top of whatever it is," having an in-depth conversation. And
Yeah.
it changed a lot, and the people in the industry are amazing. So I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Awesome. Okay, so you drop culinary, you go straight into the Honda program, or did you do like an automotive, like a basic automotive program first, or you do go straight to Honda?
Straight into Honda. So
Okay.
they actually start you off in your basics for the PACT program, which is what I was in. They It was a 2-year program. They kind of restructured it since then, but at that time it was 8 weeks in and 8 weeks out.
Okay.
So your 8 weeks out is an internship that they prefer you to have at another Honda dealer. And they start you off with the basic fundamentals, how express service works, oil changes, suspension components, and then they just build from there. You
Okay.
actually end up with 100% of your self studies done, and it was 80% of your training center modules done as well. So you kind of get into the dealership world a little bit ahead of anyone else that would start.
Yeah. So did you have to apply for this program? Like I'm assuming this wasn't through the same college that you went to where you
Yep,
were
same
studying.
college.
It was.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
just fate put me there.
That's fascinating. Okay, I didn't realize that that was a thing. So did you apply? Did you just have to like raise your hand and say I want to do this? What was that like?
So there was an application process. Were 2 teachers that ran the program, so they could have a max of, I believe it was 18 students.
Okay.
The turnover, for lack of a better word, it was pretty crazy there. Most people didn't make it through the program, so it is pretty rigorous. I believe we started with 18 people, and I graduated with 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a pretty significant turnover. Interesting.
yeah.
So just that rigorous of a program, or did people like come in and realize this isn't for me, or was it
I
really
think
just like
that's
it's a
part of it.
difficult program?
Yeah, some people think, oh, I get to come in and I get to learn how to build cars in K-Tune, whatever. And that's not what it is. It's dealer life.
Very much so, very much so.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with. Like I went the dealer life route for a while, and it was good to me. I think it was
Yeah.
I think especially for people coming in like without a lot of knowledge or experience. Like you and I both kind of came in with, I don't really know a whole heck of a lot, but I'm going to dive into this. It really is a system that is designed to help you win, right? There's a progression, there's benchmarks, you know how to win the game, like you
Yeah.
like have some built-in structure, whereas like just going either learning on your own or going the independent shop route, like I think it just takes a lot longer and there isn't like a clear path. I think it's really helpful to go the dealership route as a woman, maybe in particular, but definitely as a person who did not know much coming into it.
Yeah, dealership life was a little bit easier for that. The 2 internships I had first were actually at independent shops since I couldn't
Oh,
find any dealers that wanted me at that point in time.
oh,
So
interesting.
that was a little defeating.
Yeah,
If anything, it lit more of a fire because I'm gonna do it. No one's gonna stop me.
yeah.
So
So the dealerships, you weren't able to find one. Were they point blank telling you that they weren't interested in you as a woman, or were there just no positions available, or what was the story?
they naturally never said woman. It was just that they weren't looking at that point in time, or I didn't fit credentials that they wanted, which is fine. But at one point, I told myself then, and I still tell myself now, they're all going to know my name one day, and I'm just fighting for that. I just want to do great things and help the amazing people that are out there, customers, everybody. So that's their loss, not mine.
I love that. They're all going to know my name one day. That's great. Okay, so you worked independent shops while you were doing the Honda program. What
Yeah.
was independent shop life like now that you've got dealership life, you've got independent shop life? Tell me about the differences there.
It it was almost fascinating. The things that I learned being in an independent shop were vastly different than, than the dealership life. But it almost put me on top with a lot of different things where there were little tips and tricks with not having factory tools that would get me by, since I knew the independent life and all of my friends that were in the program with me didn't have those tips and tricks because they have the tools designed to do the job. So
Yeah.
there it really it was eye opening, very resourceful, learning how to use my resources differently. So it was a very good learning experience for me.
I appreciate that you pointed that out. I think those are really awesome. That's a really awesome point. I think I agree. Once I left the dealership and went independent, because I started my own shop, was like, you don't have all the fancy tools. You don't have all the right stuff all the time. And you have to learn to figure it out anyway. Like it definitely makes you appreciate when you have the right tools a whole lot
Yeah,
more.
yes,
But
it does.
but there is something to be said for that. Like I I don't have the right tool, but I'm gonna figure it out anyway. And I think I encourage people to do both, right? Like I think if
Oh
if
yeah,
you're gonna start out in this industry, like experience all the things.
absolutely. And I can speak for people in the dealership world too. We have to make our own tools sometimes just to get the job done. So even though there's special tools for it, there's better tools that you can make.
Ooh, interesting. Or somebody lost the special tool or broke the special
Or that.
tool or it's on back order or it's in somebody's toolbox and they're hiding it. That never happens.
I've also never heard of back order. What is this back order?
Never.
Never.
Intergalactic back order.
Worse
Okay.
than ever.
Right. So you're working at Independence while you're going to this program, and it's how long in total was the whole program?
2 years.
2 years. That's a long program for automotive, for the manufacturers program. Were there other manufacturers at the college that you went to, or was Honda the only one?
Right now, Honda is the only one. They used to
Interesting.
have Toyota at one point. When I
Huh.
graduated, I believe they had Chrysler, or they had Ford. They had Ford and Mopar. So Ford,
Interesting.
Mopar, and Honda when I graduated.
Okay. Very interesting. I wish I'd known about that back when I was going to school. That sounds really interesting. Um, I love it. I think that's really cool. So, all right. So you're in this program for 2 years. Are you in Independence the whole time that you're in this program?
So the first semester, I couldn't find anybody. So
Okay.
I just kind of stuck to my books, read. I did a lot of modules, just try to kind of get ahead and learn what I need to learn. The following semester was my first independent. I took no breaks because you have to have a certain amount of hours as well. So I had to catch up. I took no breaks for my first one, took no breaks for my second internship, which was at another dealer, independent shop. And then I had my first Honda dealer when I graduated my senior year, or
Oh, it
senior
wasn't until you
semester, I guess.
graduated that you got into a
Yeah.
dealership.
Yep. My very last internship was at a dealer.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. All right. How were the other students? How were the teachers? You were, I'm assuming, the only female in this program.
Only female. Yep. The year before me actually had two. So
Ooh,
the teachers are very supportive towards females and very excited to get them in.
awesome.
Um, I still constantly go up there and advocate for women in the program and meet them, shake their hand. Hey, this is where I am now. This is where you could be. It's just kind of keep it on the grindstone and working hard. But
Yeah,
all the students, they were phenomenal. No one ever judged me in any way. They were very helpful, helped me learn. I had no negativity at all getting into the automotive program.
that's phenomenal to hear. I love that. And just for context, time frame. I don't know how old you are, but what year ish was it when you were in this program?
I started in 2013 and graduated in 2015.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. That is awesome to
Yeah.
hear that it was so supportive and encouraging. I'm curious, did the other students in your program, were they able to find placements in dealerships?
Yep, every single one of them.
Every one of them. So teachers and classmates were supportive, industry, maybe not always so much.
Yeah, not right away. Not for me at least.
I appreciate your point though about like, okay, so I met some resistance, so I used that time to study up and get ahead, and like it didn't stop you. If anything, it probably wound up giving you an unfair advantage in the long run. Not unfair, but like, it gave you an
Oh
advantage
yeah.
in the long run because you studied harder, you worked harder, you were forced to work harder to get to the same place. And then
Yeah.
and then now look at you. Um,
Doing big
so,
things.
so are you at the same dealership that you originally started at?
No, this is actually my fourth Honda dealer now.
Fourth dealership. Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me why you moved from one to another.
A lot of it was I couldn't become a master tech as soon as I wanted to be.
Ah,
So master tech for Honda, which I'm sure is similar to other programs, is after you complete all of your training center or in training center modules, then you're certified master technician. So engine, transmission, brakes, all that
okay.
diagnostics, lots of diagnostics. But then you're just a certified master tech. And from what I remember, most of it was I just wanted to get there faster. I wanted to keep going to training, and it was taking longer than I wanted. So
Okay. Did they just not send people to training as frequently or wouldn't send you to training?
Just people. So it was
people in
just
general.
how the dealers were in general. It wasn't
Okay.
anything against me, and
Yeah.
they were all very good to me, every single place.
Nice. That's awesome. I had the opposite experience. I got all of the training because they didn't like me at my dealership and they didn't want me
Oh,
there. So they sent me to all the training classes. Like, because they didn't want to lose their quote unquote good techs for the day or the week or the, however many days the
yeah.
class was. So they're like, send Bogey because we're not, they didn't give me any opportunity. But it worked out because then I had all the classes.
Yeah. I was going to say that benefits them more than they know. And benefits
Right.
you amazingly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so you switched around so that you could advance your career. Talk
Yep.
to me about this super tech thing because this is like you're an elite. You're not just like you didn't just start out as a culinary tech and then become a Honda tech. You went like as far as you can possibly go and went like I'm going to become the elite of the elite of the elite within this Honda world and this Honda ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the program starts after, well, you have to apply to the program. So after you hit Master Tech, you talk to your district parts and service manager. Then they will put you in the running, more or less, to become a super tech. I believe there's 35 allotted spots in the entire US.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You are active super tech for 3 years. So I'm still active at this point in time. Thankfully gave me one extra year, thanks to COVID. But uh, so you go through the application. There's phone interviews to make sure your personality matches with the rest of the group. There is a quiz that you have to take, 75% or higher. There's not that many questions, and they all involve a lot of thought. So they really make sure that you're fit for the program, that you think on a higher level, you understand the diagnostic process. And if your personality fits and everything else, and there's an opening in your district, because they don't just favor one side, it's spread out pretty evenly, then you get in.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
does it mean like extra training, extra opportunity, extra money, or is it just like, I mean, not just, I shouldn't say just, is it the accolades of like, check me out, I'm a super tech? What comes along with it?
Monthly meetings come along with it, so you can get some extra insight on some things that are coming into the dealer world, whether that be service bulletins, other things other techs are seeing. Since I'm sure you know too, with travel, you see different things in the Salt Belt than you do other places. And even me moving dealers in just Pennsylvania, there's things I saw when I was in northern Pennsylvania that now I don't see that I'm in southern Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
So it gives you a lot of insight into things that they're seeing, running knowledge by other super techs and tech line. Just hey, we've seen a lot of these problems. So you also do FQRs, field quality reports.
Mm.
So if you see something repetitively, you start to send it in, or even if you see something the first time. So it's an asset to engineers. You have an opportunity to talk to engineers. Trips also come with it. So you get one trip a year, which
Nice.
you don't pay for. They just take you out as a thank you,
Oh,
and you get a tour Honda plants.
nice.
So it's fun. It's
That's
a lot of
awesome.
fun.
The elite of the elite of the elite. So 30, 35 spots nationally.
Yeah,
Were any other women?
I'm still the only one.
Are you the first and only?
Second. So there was a
Second.
woman earlier on when the program started, and she was
Okay.
amazing too, from what I hear. So
Okay. Awesome. I love it. That's very cool. Very cool. Congratulations. That is no
thank
small
you.
feat. One of only 35 across the country. That's pretty freaking phenomenal. And you went from zero to super tech in how many years from when you left and started the Honda program? Can we math this?
7, I think
Se-
7 years.
70 years. That's nothing. That's
Told you.
nothing. Like, can we just like go back in time for a hot second, guys, and remember that at the beginning of this, she said all I knew how to do was change my spare.
Yeah,
So
now I'm one of the highest level technician possible.
yes, 7 years later, she's one of the highest technicians in, wow, that's pretty insane. Do you feel like this was just always inside of you waiting to be pulled out? Like this
Oh
was your
yeah,
calling? Yeah.
it was here. I just needed to find it.
I love it. Biggest shock to you getting into the industry from knowing nothing and getting into it? Were there any like surprises? Were there any things that caught you off guard, like once you were actually in it and working on cars hands on every day, that you were like, oh, this is not at all what I expected? Or
Uh, Mostly as cars change, you're like, wow, this is what they decided to do to take this apart. That's cool. This would make more sense, but I guess this works. Otherwise, a
yeah.
lot of it was kind of what I expected. I've run into problems with coworkers. I run into problems with that was less frequent. I run into problems with customers not wanting me to look at their cars, but I think the biggest surprise was the immense amount of support that I had,
Mm,
and the service manager is going up and saying, "Well, if you want your car fixed right, she's working on it."
mm.
So it felt so good, and going out and doing community service, talking to kids, I doing all of that, and them letting me do that just felt amazing.
Yeah,
So a lot of the surprises were better than worse.
that's awesome. I love hearing that, and I have to tell you that is not the norm. I definitely meet a handful of women who say that they've had really positive experiences, but more often than not, that is not the case. I'm curious, and obviously, it's like it's hard to say, but in your estimation, like, do you do you feel like it was just happenstance and luck that you wound up with great supportive peers and great supportive bosses and teachers? Or do you think it's something about you and how you presented and your attitude? Or um, is it part of the country? I mean, you've traveled now, you've met people in other parts of the country. Like, do you think that there's something that it attributes why you've had such support throughout your career? I know that's a hard question, but
If I had to say, it might be a mix of both. Um, it's I try not to let things bring me down. It doesn't always work, but seeing and hunting for that silver lining is what's going to keep you going in the hard times. It's really hard to find, but it's always there. So even those negative experiences I had, it was okay. How am I going to prove them wrong? Not, or how am I going to show them? I don't have to prove anything, but how am I going to show them that they are wrong and have them understand that? I mean, I'm still here to help, no matter how much you hate me. I'm always here. So I think that having that positive outlook really helps. I also did my research before going to any of those dealerships too. So being even before being a super tech, helping out at my college a lot, I got to meet a lot of people that knew a lot of people. So it was really beneficial to be like, hey, how is this dealer? Like, do they treat their people right? So it was that I had kind of an edge before going somewhere versus just going in somewhere blind and assuming that the interview was completely truthful. So that helped too.
I love that. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I feel like that is something that is so underutilized as a tool and so under talked about. Like, you're interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you when you're looking for a new job. And like, do your research about a place before you walk in the door. I love that you got the dirt from behind the scenes about the dealers before you went there. That is so huge. Um, and I appreciate your perspective there of like, it's probably a little bit of both. You did your research, made sure you were going to a good place, and there probably was some negative shit, right? There probably was some crap that was not so supportive, not so sunshine and fairy tales, and you just didn't let that affect you.
Yeah, I can't say never, but it's always out there. It's just having to look past it's really hard, and just keeping that positive outlook is a lot of what I was taught in culinary and even from my teachers, my parents, and taking that to the grave is my plan. So at least trying to.
Okay. Interesting that you brought up culinary again. Are there other crossover lessons that you learned from culinary that apply to automotive? Seems like a weird
Actually,
crossover, but
yeah.
yes. Okay,
Attention
do
to
tell.
detail. Lots of attention to detail came from that. Everything leaves the exact same. Especially now, no missing screws, no missing bolts. I find everything's home. I am so strategic in where everything gets put. So finding that process that works the best works. Same with culinary. When do you put in this ingredient to make sure that the whatever's a little bit more fluffy? I mean, I'm out of it now, so I can't remember, but that just remembering that there's a process to everything and following the process and keeping the same process helps you in the long run. So
Interesting.
that was a huge crossover. And my chefs and culinary always taught me to network too, which I believe wholeheartedly in. There's not one hand I don't shake. And it has benefited me a lot, especially with the hunting of dealerships to figure out where to go.
Amazing. I love that. I would not have anticipated that answer. That is fantastic, but makes total sense once you say it. That makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense. I mean, culinary has to be incredibly organized and incredibly detailed and systems and process oriented. And as
Yeah.
much as people don't necessarily think about it, like that is cars, right? Like working on cars is totally systems and processes. Um,
Can't
so
take the
does that
headliner out
mean
before you get the pillars out.
right, yeah. So are you a neat technician? Like, is your toolbox perfectly organized and like everything you're
I can blindly reach in that thing and pick whatever tool out that I needed to pick out. So
amazing. I envy that. That is not me.
to the extent that I do have some tools that I strictly bought and spent extra money on, just so there's undercar tools and like headliner interior work tools.
Oh,
I don't touch them with dirty hands. No fingerprints
oh,
anywhere. Oh yeah,
wow. That's okay. So there
I'm
she is
weird.
a
I
super
can't.
tech, y'all. Like I think she's officially like light years beyond me. I am nope. That's impressive. Okay, I dig it.
Not every tool, but there's a couple. Quite
Maybe I should have
enough.
gone to culinary school before I became a mechanic. I love it. Okay, so there's so many questions that I want to ask you. So are
I'm
we
here
are
for them.
we are we allowed to talk about like what's currently going on in your world and like your job and advancements or want
Yeah,
to
we can
yeah.
stumble into that a little bit.
Okay.
So as of a couple months ago, I recently became the assistant service manager to my service department, which is exciting.
I love it. I feel like you need all the big ups. Like you're so early on in your career in the grand scheme of things, right? Like you don't have that
Very.
many years under your belt and yet you have excelled so far um due to hard work and discipline and like not letting anything stop you and I think that is just like so freaking phenomenal. So congratulations. I think that is
Thank
huge.
you. I love it. Being on the other side, a little bit more customer facing, well, a lot more customer facing, and going from fixing their car, interior work, whatever it is, and making sure that they don't see a difference there. Now I'm out front and have a direct impact on making them happy when they leave. And we're so forward with just like unhealthy kindness, just going above and beyond to make sure that they have
Unhealthy kindness.
a different experience. It coming to a dealership, a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm going to get taken advantage of." There's people here that they just want the money. That's not the and that's why I love this dealership. That's not what it's about. It's about making sure that that customer's happy and they know that their car is taken care of and that they have the best service. And with that, that we listen. We've customer came in and she said that she wants her car back by a certain time to take her daughter to a Bluey concert. So we went out, got a Bluey toy, wrote her a little note, left it in the car, and it's just those small things that make such a huge impact in somebody's life, and it just feels good.
That sounds like independent shop kind of stuff. Like we used to do that at my independent shop, but like at a dealership, is it a small dealership or a big dealership?
It's a fairly large dealership, slowly expanding.
That's impressive that you're doing that kind of personalized care. Is that a you thing that you've interjected now that you're assistant manager, or is that like that's been the culture of this dealership?
That culture was lost before the current manager and I stepped into our roles, since we stepped in at the same time.
Okay.
And that's something that everybody there has been wanting to do. And now that they have the support from us as well to really push for that, that's helped volumes.
Heck yeah. That is so amazing. I appreciate this so much because I feel like there's the dealership versus independent world conversation and kind of battle gets had a lot, right? It's like, which is better, the independents or the dealerships? And some people are like, oh, the dealerships suck, and other people are like, oh, the independents suck. I'm like, you can't. There's no blanket statements like that. Like that doesn't apply because they are all independently owned and operated, and like
Yeah.
there's amazing dealerships and there's horrible dealerships. And there's amazing independent shops and there's horrible independent shops.
Yeah, the independent shop I used to take my car to when I lived in the southern tier of New York, they took phenomenal care of me. And just that experience that I had with them is what I want my customers to feel. Especially my parents still living up there. I don't get to see them. I don't get to help them with their car. All I hear is the experiences they have. So every customer that I come in, I'm like, look, I'm going to treat you like family. You are how I want my parents to get treated when they go somewhere.
I love that. I wish there was more of that. I think it's growing in the industry, that kind of mindset. But it's not the norm yet. And I want it to be so badly. Do you feel like you've seen a big change or shift in the industry since you've entered it, either as a female or just in general, the industry as a whole? Major shifts or changes since you entered?
Um, a little bit. I mean, outside of technology, technology has been going absolutely crazy, which we all know. At least in my area, I feel that women have been more accepted. So the hardships that I had entering into the industry in 2013 don't feel like they're there anymore. Not saying they're not other places, but I've seen a lot more acceptance. And when I've gone out, I've talked to other women that work on airplanes and helicopters and tanks. So that just hearing all of that also feels good now, since I never heard that before
Yeah.
when I was getting in.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Did you have any women that you were able to like look up to when you were first getting into it, or were you the only?
That was just me.
It was
I
just
always
you.
looked up to my mom though. She's
Aw.
she kills it in her own industry. So I just really
What
want
does
to be
mom
like her.
do?
She's a chemical engineer.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's
Super
dope.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come
So
by this naturally. You're smart. You have the engineer brain. You definitely come by this naturally.
I think so. I think that helps. Both my parents are engineers, so it just very literally
Okay.
in my blood.
Was there ever any interest in going down that road?
There's been talk between my mom and I during hardships in automotive for me, and it. I just never ended up moving back up to New York. If I ended up moving up there, I'm sure it would be a different career path. But staying
Yes.
here, I'm glad I kind of toughed it out.
Yeah. Are you comfortable talking about any of those hardships, or we just prefer to stay on the positive?
I mean, men suck, but is that what you were expecting?
That was not quite what I was expecting, but you know, not
No, not
all of
all
them.
men. That's not a blanket statement at all. That's not a blanket statement at all. Um, it I found myself in a series of bad relationships, and that's also kind of fueled my fire, just dumping my heart and soul into work, because that's what's always been there, and the pets. But that's that's helped a lot, and that was one point that I was looking at possibly moving back up there, but I just toughed it out being the independent person I am, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay here. I'll be fine. So
Okay. All right. So we throw ourselves into a career. Yep. I relate to that. Yep.
I still am. That hasn't changed one bit.
Yep.
I don't think it ever will.
All right. Okay, so you talked about technology and how quickly it's changing and all of the challenges with that. Um, what what are your fears, hopes, thoughts for the future as technology is like going insane, right? Like we've been slow build to self-driving cars for since the invention of cruise control, right? Like
Yeah,
cruise control, people don't think about this, but like cruise control was the first step
it really
towards
was.
self-driving cars, and that was like in the what 80s was the first cruise control,
Oh,
earlier than
possibly.
that
I
maybe.
know. I know our Hondas had it
Yeah.
forever ago.
Yeah. So like it's been around for a minute. So that was the beginning, but then it was like slow incremental steps from that point.
Yeah,
And now it's like this massive snowball that is just rolling down the hill out of control. Like we in Phoenix or in Arizona, we already have driverless cars that are running around. And so technology is out of control. Um, what are you seeing? What are your thoughts? What are your fears? Like what's your outlook for the industry or your biggest fears?
I'm intrigued more than nervous.
Okay.
It's it's fascinating to me how different technologies can come together and make all these different things happen. So Honda has adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, collision mitigation braking. A lot of this, what I'm sure now is almost standard. And
It's getting there, yeah.
I remember doing a pre-delivery inspection of a new car, and that was one of the first ones I did, and that was when they started introducing adaptive cruise control, which I thought was absolutely amazing, and lane keep assist, which was even more crazy to me at the time. But I have a high outlook for it. I would say I think it makes me nervous for sure. I do enjoy driving cars, not riding, just riding. It's relaxing for me. So I think the industry is going in the route that technology is going, and so even dealership world getting into video MPIs and giving the customers that sense to the cars are just going down the route of that where you don't drive anymore. I think it could take accidents out of equation, so I think it would be beneficial in a lot of different ways. And it can definitely see things that you can't see, and it helps eliminate blind spots. I think there's a lot of benefits. Um, Batteries make me nervous. I'm not a big fan of full electrics, but we'll see how that goes as that really takes hold.
Yeah. Interesting. I think the fear that I hear from people, I recently did a video on self-driving cars, and the fear that everybody seemed to bring up was that it would cause more accidents. And I agree with you that it's actually I think it's going to cause less accidents, because computers don't get distracted by cell phones.
Yes. Well, and the being in the world where you're actually aiming the radars, aiming the cameras, and seeing how that technology is really, really taking over, with what Hunter is doing and what Bosch is doing with their equipment, where it takes the the aspect of not doing proper measurements out of equation,
Okay.
um, where it's just taking over with lasers where you can't mess it up. Now, it won't let you aim without actually making sure the laser's dead on. So without
Interesting.
that human equation in it as well, I think going that route is making it even safer. Before
Interesting.
years ago, it made me nervous.
Okay, so talk to me about that because this is why I'm still nervous because I don't know about these things. Because I'm not in dealership life anymore and I'm not online anymore. It still terrifies me when I think about self-driving cars. I'm not afraid of the cars driving themselves. I'm afraid of just any Joe Blow being able to work on them and misaligning sensors and screwing things up and causing issues that now make the car drive off the cliff or
Yeah.
whatever. And so you're saying that this same technology is actually being applied to the equipment used to align them to take the human element out of that as well.
Yes. So Honda has, I'm assuming it's a contract, with Bosch and Hunter, where you can choose either equipment. One is substantially more expensive, and it does involve an alignment rack as well. So tire alignments can even affect radar aim, because if your tires are going to the side a little bit and your radar is also not, or your radar is pointing straight and your tires are to the side, I mean, you're not going to get accurate readings, which a lot of customers don't understand.
Yeah.
So it involves doing a 4-wheel tire alignment to make sure toe, everything else is within spec. Then I would almost have to send a picture or something. It's this insane contraption with these things called gimbals on it, which makes me super happy. I love saying that. And there's like laser dots and laser lines. You put the hubs on the wheels. You move the car just like you would on an alignment rack, where you move it forward, so then it feels everything out. It will pick up on the distance of the distance out from, I'm trying to make sure I get it right, the distance out from the tires, make the box around the car, make sure everything's dead straight. It'll set up lasers where even the actual physical tool that you use with an adapter on it has to be dead straight. So it'll pick up shop slant, it'll pick up everything else, so that you're getting a proper measurement on the car.
Interesting.
So it takes out even that element. It does a phenomenal job. It's a little tight in our dealership to use it, but it's overall, seeing that really put a lot of comfort for me.
Interesting. Okay. So then that brings up the next question. I'm curious your take on this. Excuse me. Should anybody be allowed to work on these cars? The whole right to repair conversation, because not everybody has that equipment, right? Like not everybody has that piece of equipment that takes the human out of it and makes sure that everything is aligned perfectly. And I don't know how it's a contentious topic, so we can chat about it, but I'm curious your thoughts.
For me, it's know your limits. If you have a way that you know is flawless and it works and there are no issues and there's not going to be a mistake, then do what you're comfortable with. There was a way before this came in that I'm still very comfortable with doing. I would do it on my own car. I would do it on my parents' car. And I know it's aimed properly and it's safe. But also I take into caution, I want to level ground. I want to make sure the alignment's done. So I dot all my I's and cross my T's ahead of time. So that's, for me, it's know your limits. I would prefer the tool. If you don't have the tool and you have as close to flawless way of doing it, then that I would feel that's acceptable.
Okay. I think that's probably applicable to life in general, and even without cars that can practically drive themselves, right? Know your limits, know what you can do. And that's a tough one, right? Because us mechanically minded folks were like, we can fix anything, right?
I can, but I know my limits.
Yep. Given enough time and the right resources, I can fix anything. However, should I is another question. Am
I going to do it right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it's challenging, because I think a lot of the times the folks who shouldn't be messing with this stuff don't even know that they shouldn't be messing with it. Like they don't know enough to know how bad it could be once they mess with it. They're like, oh, it's just a bumper. I can take it off and I can repaint it. And like, well, there's sensors in there. And yeah.
And the part you're not supposed to paint over for the radar, you don't know that that's there. And the thicknesses of radar for blind spot, there's a lot, especially now, that goes into painting cars. Get a 2001 Civic and do what you want, but don't get a 25 Pilot and just paint over the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very interesting. I think I'm curious to see how this continues to shake out over the next several years, decade. I think it's going to happen very fast, but It's going to be interesting to watch how it plays out. And you, as a super tech, you probably have access to all sorts of information that the rest of us don't. But so I appreciate you sharing your perspective on that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I'm excited to see where the industry is going to go.
yeah,
I'm very, very curious to see what plays out.
yeah. Goals and aspirations. Like, so you're assistant manager now, you're super tech, you've got that under your belt, you're just knocking off achievements left and right. Do you have a long-term goal for yourself? Because you're still young and you're still new in this
Yeah.
industry in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. The after Super Tech, it was really hard for me to find what I wanted to do next. Especially knowing that last year could have been my last year as a gold member, which then you just don't get the trips anymore. It's not a big change, and that's fine. That's nothing I'll ever complain about. I'm so blessed to be in the program, and I've worked so hard to get there. And being a super tech just feels great, and knowing that those phenomenal people I get to talk to still. But it was hard to find the next light, which definitely added a lot of stress. And that's just where in this current dealership I just kept talking. The assistant manager role came up as well, and the manager and I are very good friends. So that kind of fell into place, which felt very nice. Once again, I worked hard for it, and I raised my hand and I was like, look, if you need help, and I didn't even ask for a role. If you just need help, I'm here. I'll fill in somewhere. I'll stay late. And now I got this, possibly fixed ops. That sounds intriguing to me. Uh, if that is a goal, that's my 2-year goal. So I'm half a year into that.
Okay.
um, if not, there's so many avenues, and I think people get lost in I'm in express tech. I need to go into main shop and just having that linear career path, and that's not at all what it is. You can do whatever you want. Most managers were service advisors first, and both the manager and I were just technicians and then got into it. So nothing's linear at all.
I
So
appreciate
I'm still figuring it out.
that. Okay. I love that. I appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right. I think people get stuck in that and forget how many opportunities there are like all around us all the time. And I love your willingness to say like I just want to help out. Like
Yeah.
just that's huge.
I find that movements in life, at least for me, are easier if it's not just that set goal, but just the next achievement. So it's not I need to do this one cookie cutter thing. It's I want to do something that's going to get me to this point.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more generalized, and then just work hard. Work absolutely hard for it, fearlessly.
Work hard, work fearlessly, don't give up, pour your life into it. I'm noticing
Yeah.
a theme.
Excuse my fortune cookie lingo.
No, I love it. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's the workaholic in us though, right?
Yeah.
Is there work-life balance, or is this level of success achievable purely by pouring your whole life into career?
Uh, there's work life balance. I still have my time outside of work. I still take vacations. I mean, I'm still a human. I need that. I need to not get burnt out. The manager and I have very good terms together where we know what times we can and can't talk about work outside of work. So we have limitations with that because we both have lives and we need to just de-stress and decompress. So there's work life balance, plenty of
I
it.
like that. I love that boundary setting. Like these are the times when we can talk about work.
Yes. I mean, mind you, they're not set times, but I'm like, look, my phone turns off at this time. You will not reach me after this time.
Yeah. As it should be. That's awesome. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're running low on time because the hour always
Yeah.
goes way faster than we expect it to. So all right, we know that you love working on cars. We know that this has become second nature to you and you have excelled ridiculously far in a very short amount of time. Do you have a thing that you like working on least? Like what's the job that comes in that you're like, ugh, I don't
You're
want to
gonna
do
think I'm
this.
crazy.
Okay.
uh, Maintenance, brakes, tires, oil changes. I don't. It's boring. It's so boring. Can I do it? Absolutely. I am fully capable, but I want to fix the problems that they come in for. I'll do whatever the customer needs me to do. And even if it is an oil change that don't even make money on,
Right.
it would be I would still want to do that oil change for that customer because they're my customer. And still, even being an assistant manager, it hasn't prevented me from working on cars. If there's a problem car that comes in, I want to tear it completely apart until I fix it and I know what it is. But
I
that's
think
my
that's
favorite
always
diagnostic, least favorite's maintenance.
I love it. I love it. I think that's always been my biggest frustration with like the flat rate system and dealership life, and it's independent life too if it's on the flat rate system, is like the stuff that is the most fun, the
That's okay.
diagnostic, the digging in, the rolling up your sleeves, and like a good juicy problem that you really can sink your teeth into that like challenges you and makes you think. Like you don't get paid crap for that.
No, no, you don't. And what once again, that's a mindset change for me. Is okay. I don't get paid to diagnose, so I'm going to get real damn good at it.
Yeah.
I this job sucks, so I'm gonna get real damn good at it. Tiny hands. Being a girl with tiny hands helps so much. Narrow
Right?
arms, tiny hands. I can get certain jobs done so much faster.
Yes, skinny arms and tiny hands for the win. I sometimes watch like these big dudes work on cars, and I'm like, I really feel like this industry is just better suited for women.
It
Like,
is. I can put my feet up on a seat and just get my whole body underneath the dash and take that whole thing apart.
yes. It
It's so
boggles my
easy.
mind.
That was my favorite thing to do was, hey, you want to race? I bet I can get it done faster.
Exactly. That was 100%, that was the thing that like got me the tiniest bit of respect in my first dealership that did not have any interest in having a female technician. Like they were there was, and they were not like hiding it, right? Like it was very in my face. Like they were very clear
Yeah.
and transparent about the fact that they did not want a woman there, until there was a recall that required taking a whole bunch of stuff off unless you have little hands. And I would just
Yeah.
reach my arm up underneath and replace the thing that needed to be replaced. And everybody's like, hey Bogey, can you do that
Yep.
thing?
And everybody loves you.
Yep, all of a sudden
I
they
still
see
get
the
text
redeeming value.
messages. Hey, Brooke, can you come help me with this real quick? I'm like, oh, you
I,
can't get that? Here, I just
I need to borrow your
please.
tiny hands, dang it.
Yes. Yes. My coworker at my last dealer, he's a phenomenal human being. He said that he could always conquer the world. He knows he could conquer the world if he had one tiny hand. And I was his tiny hand, so he was so sad when I left.
I love that. I feel like, we need in our lives, we need the tall person, we need the super flexible person, we need the person with tiny hands, and we
Yep.
need the person who's just like bull in china shop, has that like strength, right? Like that's who we need in our groups to make a strong shop. You need at least one tech with small hands, one tech with a lot of muscle.
Absolutely. I was very grateful too with my last two dealers. Both the guys next to me were exactly a foot taller than me because I'm 5'3". I'm not that tall. So they can help me with almost anything. They're both very strong guys, so they could help pick rear heads off if I was struggling with that. And then I was just tiny with tiny hands, so we would do trade-offs if need be, and it worked so well. Both of them insanely intelligent men, so it was very nice.
I
I was
love it.
very very lucky.
That's the best. I have to point out, I love your perspective on everything. Like you're always looking for the silver lining. It's so great. You're like, I'm 5'3", so I'm not that tall. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm 5'2.5". I'm short. But you're like, I'm not that tall. Like I
I'm
am
not.
tall, but I'm not that tall.
There's been countless times at work that I've been around a whole bunch of people at least a foot taller than me, and I'm just like, hey guys. It's so normal for my life. I'm just like, okay, nope, I don't even feel short. I just feel normal. So it doesn't change anything.
I love it. I love it. All right. We are officially over because that's what happens. We're over an hour. So final question before I let you go and get on with your life. If you had the opportunity to go back and talk to little baby Brooklynne, what are your words of advice to her?
Stick it out and don't get disappointed so fast. I really wish as a kid that I could do as well with finding silver linings as I do now. And it definitely beat me down a lot as a kid, but just sit back, watch the fireworks, and know you're going to do great things.
I love that. Watch the fireworks and know you're going to do great things. That is beautiful. And finding silver linings is a practice, right? It is you have to do it every day. It's not like showering. I mean, it's like showering. You don't just do it once. You have to do it every day, right? You have to do it all the time. That's beautiful. I love it. You're amazing. Thank you so very much for saying yes to joining me on With Her Two Hands. This was great. You're phenomenal.
No, it was amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And folks at home, thank you guys so much for tuning in and spending part of your evening with us. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Brooklynne as much as I did. Her links are going to be down in the description below, so make sure you follow her along. And make sure you come back next week because we have another incredible tradeswoman for you to meet. And of course, every Monday we release another archive episode. So 2 times a week, you get a chance to watch the With Her Two Hands podcast and meet another inspiring, incredible woman in the trades. And until next time, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, be good human beings.